establishing your identity on the internet of like, this is like you almost like now you have a reputation, or you've become like this internet personality, or what's the word that people use for, people that have a platform, like it's like this is your persona on the internet, and like that. I want to dig a little deeper into that. Like, what do you think? I don't know. Maybe you kind of said it all, but I think it's so important to have that kind of a presence, and like it doesn't necessarily need to be like anything specific. Like it's like I'm not. No one's the best mixer, but there's only one Enoch, right? Like, and like if people know you for one thing, they're going to come back to you, and people are going to think about you when it comes to like, like I was thinking about bringing you onto the show. Like, oh, you're a personality on the internet. Like you have this thing. Well, I don't know. Any thoughts on that beyond what I'm just like reiterating?
I feel like when people hear personality, they hear like, oh, they've created a personality. This isn't who they are in real life. And I would push back on that a little bit. I think personality is a great way of putting it, but I think I have just leaned into being authentic.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, I do think that is what it is. You know what I mean?
Like
it is an authentic thing.
Yeah.
Like I think I only started to have like a real, I don't know if I have a persona, but like whatever you want to call this podcast, you know what I mean? Like when I started opening up more and being more myself and just like fully just trying to be me on the podcast, you know what I mean? Being an open book, whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't touch on this much when I was just kind of flying through my like professional journey, but my personal development journey like has also come a long way from when I started off. Again, like I said earlier, grew up very religious, and now I basically identify as a gay man. And so going from that pipeline of, rigid religiosity to, a little more free, leaning into who I am, that took a long time. That was almost harder than like the professional stuff that was going on. It was a lot of therapy, a lot of like figuring out how to deconstruct what I grew up with, what the beliefs that I grew up with, and transitioning into like, what do I actually think? There were a lot of really, really great people who supported me during that journey, Mark being one of them. And I think when people started to kind of fuck with me, like started to like resonate with me, relate to me, was when I started being really open about my story and about where I was as far as like what I was struggling with as a person, what I was going through as a person. And as I started kind of opening up and like peeling those layers of myself back, the walls that I had created to kind of hide who I was, people started responding to that. And so I think like on top of, just kind of building community and like really trying to build relationships with people, working on my own authenticity and personal development was really foundational, really key in setting myself up as, this person, this persona, personality, figure, whatever. I still don't think I'm there. Like, I don't see myself as like a personality at all, but I guess I am in some cases.
Are we ever there?
No, never.
No, life's a journey, but I love that so much. It's the same goes, with the music we work on as well. It's the same thing. Like, cuz there's only going to be one John Bellion, right? There's only going to be, one Enoch Yang. There's only going to be one freaking, CLA, right? They drive so hard on the thing that they do, and that's them, and that's what works for them. Because I feel like people that try too hard to be chameleons and do whatever at a certain point you need to kind of say like, hey, this is what I'm about. This is the kind of music I make. This is that's otherwise you're gonna become wallpaper or something. I don't know.
Wallpaper is a great description of it.
End of rant.
Yeah, you want to go from being wallpaper to, the like big painting on the wall.
Exactly. Yeah, because people are going to gravitate
something
toward
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So walk us through a little bit what you're up to with Mark these days, and just in general what you're up to.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm doing kind of whatever I want right now, which is really cool that I have the freedom to pursue those things. And so my main job, is being the director of A&R at That Pitch, which basically means I hold down the fort while Mark hops on calls with a lot of clients. I'm basically making sure that pitch doesn't fall apart, that our members feel taken care of, member onboarding, doing content critiques for members, basically everything that has to do with day-to-day operations and That Pitch functioning at an optimal level is what I take care of. So I
Nice.
have a really
Is
great
this
team.
is this full time or it's like halftime or it's whatever you want it to be?
It's full time. This is what I do pretty much Monday to Friday. That being said, it is a remote position. So even though I like live in Charlotte and can work in person with Mark, more often than not, I'm sitting right here in my living room or at a coffee shop, doing what I need to do. And
Amazing.
so, yeah, basically just making sure everything's running smoothly, that we're meeting deadlines, that we're keeping on top of, what needs to get done. That's what I'm in charge of. Basically, I do everything that needs to get done in order for Mark to have the freedom to grow that pitch. So, and I have a really great team of just volunteer A&Rs. Some of them are part-time. Some of them are just, volunteers from our community who help me keep everything going, which is great because I would definitely freak out if I had to do this all on my own.
Yeah.
So yeah. On top of that, I'm mentoring a few other producers just kind of on the side. Like they hit me up occasionally if they need advice on something or want to work on a song together, just kind of as a way to give back. Entering into this year after the shit show of a year that 2020 was, I decided that I wanted to make generosity and balance a big theme of my life this year. And so just trying to go out of my way to help people in a way that I wish that I was helped when I was in their position. And so I don't know how the fuck I got here. I still feel like I'm new to this, but I guess I'm not. And there are people that have asked me for help, which is really cool. And I absolutely love helping them.
You can help some. Listen, you don't have to be. I don't know why I keep saying CLA, but you don't have to be CLA to help other people, right? You could be, as long as you're a couple steps ahead of the person you're kind of helping. That's so helpful. It's like even with all of our imposter syndrome and like thinking like who the fuck am I? Like I'm still a couple steps ahead of some of the people that I'm helping. So that's all it is really. You know what I mean? Like you just have to be far enough ahead to help that other person get to that place. It's a moving. All these things are moving targets, right? And as we grow, we're able to impart more, and more and more and more. So actually, yeah. Once I have you on the line, right? I guess we could talk a little bit about sync and placement because I feel like so many people are intrigued by sync, and everyone's like saying, I want to get into sync. I want to get some sync deals. But nobody really knows what that entails. And from what I understand, you could use a platform like That Pitch, or you can work really hard building relationships that takes years, and then not use a platform. What do people need to know? What's like the first thing you should be looking into if you're trying to get your music synced?
Yeah. So I was actually talking to my buddy John True about this a while ago. About like what actually is sync. Like apart from like being just this really popular buzzword in like music communities at the moment. Sync is literally as simple as just music that happens with the visual element. Right. And so there's a bunch of different ways to get into that. It's definitely a confusing topic. That being said, when people ask me how to get into sync, I usually tell them that the easiest way to do it is to diversify yourself as much as possible. So you're going to get opportunities from sites like Taxi, which I do have a little bit of beef with Taxi because all of my friends seem to get shortlisted but never seem to land placements on their opportunities. You can use a site like That Pitch, which focuses more or less on utility music at the moment, but we are also like expanding to offer a lot of different placement opportunities. That Pitch is a smaller company. We are growing really quickly, developing a lot of that right now. We're actually migrating over to a custom platform in January, which will be super cool because there are a few problems with our UI at the moment, and I'm really excited that this new platform will fix all of them and just make my job so much easier. And then the third thing that you can do is you can start getting in the room with people who already have sync connections. It's going to be really hard to make a connection with a music supervisor if you aren't already connected somewhat in the world of sync. It's almost like if you were to try to talk to the CEO of Starbucks. There's absolutely no way that you're going to get through that pipeline, through that door to actually get an email to the CEO of Starbucks. And even if that person does see your email, there's a really small chance that they're going to respond to it because who are you, right? And so a lot of people try to make contacts with the people at the very top right away when they themselves are really nothing. And so the best way to get your foot in the door is to work with other producers who have their foot in the door. you can't expect to get paid right away. It's going to be one of those things where you just have to be in the room. Sometimes you have to pay to be in the room. Sometimes you can, whore yourself out, like provide a service for free for that producer to, again, be in that room. From there, build those relationships up with those producers or those artists who are already working for Sync until you get to the point where you can start talking to those like the assistants of the music supervisors, and from there, making connections with the music supervisors themselves. It's something that really does take years on years on years. And while you're doing that, that whole process, that whole journey, you should be looking for opportunities that have essentially been aggregated for you by people who have already made connections in the sync world. So that pitch is one of them. There's a bunch of other groups on Facebook. It's kind of like working with a label. You're not going to be able to just message a label, A&R, and be like, hey, I want to work for you. Hire me right now. Send me big name artists, right? You need to establish your reputation. You need to go through the pipeline. As much as that just absolutely blows, you have to do it. That's the way to do it. A lot of people also think that anything is syncable. And while that is somewhat true, the fact is a lot of music that lands in the world of sync is music that is acceptable and palatable to a wide variety of audiences. It's kind of like, again, to relate back to a label, any major big pop artist, like writing for them is basically writing a song for sync. You want stuff to apply to a wide variety of audiences because, let's be honest, it's all about money, right? You're going to have songs where you're focusing a lot on creativity. There's going to be songs where you're focusing on, monetization, and that's the fact of it. Music, as much as it sucks to say this, there's an element of capitalism to this. You have to position yourself in a way where, like, you have your creative projects, you have the stuff that you're working on for you, but you also have the stuff that you're working on that's a little larger, that, like, the purpose of it isn't pure creativity, the purpose of it is monetization, and then just kind of taking those two worlds and, like, finding a balance between them.
It's so interesting you say that. Yeah, I think that people that want to get into sync, they're actually looking for a quick cash payout, whereas, the way you're describing it is it's actually a long haul. It's not the quick payout. It's after doing your reps and putting in the work and taking time to build relationships. Then eventually maybe you'll get your song in front of somebody who might want to sync it.
Yeah.
And it's like, sure, like you said, like there is that economic, capitalistic aspect to it. And that's why people screw up and think, oh, it's capitalism. Let's make some money with this great song I wrote. But no, this is so much of what we do. If you want to have that kind of like passive income, it's a long game, whether it's, sync or streams or royalties, like people that get into the music industry for money are guaranteed to fail because it's not a quick payout. It's a very slow burn, right?
So slow. It's terrible. It's agonizing.
Yeah. So I mean, I think what you said is really great advice. Like, while you're simultaneously like building up these connections over a long time, let's say, I don't know, 3 years, I'm guessing, maybe till you could get something in front of somebody based on what you're saying, you could at the same time be on a platform like that pitch and try to get, these kind of micro licenses out and get a foot in a door somehow, you know what I mean? And maybe get some cash payout.
Yeah, and just kind of on top of that, a lot of people, like, this is a roadblock that I ran into myself when I was trying to, kind of climb up this ladder, go through the pipeline, whatever the analogy is. I tried to overinflate myself. Every single time I was on a phone call when I was starting off, I almost always ended it with, "Oh, I have to drive to LA for a session now," or "Hang on, I have an artist coming through my door." When in reality, I was gonna go take a fucking nap in my bed, right? People are going to respond to humility a lot more than they're going to respond to some sort of an ego, because it's really easy to see through ego. Like, you might think you're presenting a really cool mask, a really cool facade, but anyone who knows what they're doing is going to see right through it. Like, I get so many DMs on the That Pitch Instagram from people who think they're the shit and who, like, communicate it that way. And you listen to their content, and, like, my first thought is always like, wow, that did nothing for me, right? And like that's a good day. On a bad day, I listen to it and I want to go puke in the toilet because it's just terrible. Like, please